Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very special guest today, Colonel Jason Silvernail, Army physical therapist. Recently ended his term as the Office of Surgeon General, the Surgeon General's consultant for physical therapy. Um, Someone who I met a number of years ago as a young captain, trying to figure my way around being a company commander, and then Major Silvernail was probably somebody I lean to more than anyone with his experience, his knowledge, and quite honestly, his ability to mentor officers, NCOs, soldiers was second to none. Loved by everyone in the company and by myself as well. So, sir, for the first time in a long time, great talking to you, and thank you for coming on my show, sir.
Thanks, Joe. It's great to be here. It's great to see you. Congratulations on all your success. You were an amazing company commander way back when too, and it's just so good to see the success you and your family have had. Congratulations. I'm excited to be here. My name is Jason Silvernail. I'm a doctor of physical therapy and a colonel in the U.S. Army, and I do a lot of other stuff in addition to what Joe was just talking about. And but I'm here just to talk about whatever Joe wants to talk about with me. And everything I talk about with Joe and everything that you hear from me today is my personal opinion and commentary. It does not reflect the official policy or position of the United States Army, the Department of Defense, or the U.S. government. But I have a lot to say about a lot of things, and let's let Joe and I have a great conversation. It's great to catch up with you, man. You look good.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate yourself as well. And one thing, sir, after I left Fort Bliss and continued my career, I noticed that you had started your own social media shorts, almost like they call it now on YouTube, shorts, where you would talk about leadership. You would inspire, whether it was how to lead as civilians, expectation management. Can you just talk about some of that you did on the social media side?
Yeah, I'm really happy to. And I invite everybody to follow me everywhere you are on social media. I'm there. My usual handle is @Jason Silvernail, all one word. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the opportunity to share my perspective on leadership and life with people. One of the things that I noticed, and I think that this is true, civilian or military, is that people talk about a lot about ideas in leadership, and they talk a lot about books that they've read, but they don't talk about a lot about behaviors. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the people who are often proudest for reading the greatest number of books are the people who don't seem to be applying any of the stuff that they're supposedly reading. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying everybody who says they read a leadership book isn't doing it. That's not what it's about. It's that I found over time that the best feedback I got from others about the mentoring and coaching was when I gave people a specific, practically relevant behavior to practice. And so instead of talking in general about sort of a theoretical perspective on what we should do as leaders, but bringing that down to a very specific behavior, and a behavior that they can reflect on and practice building themselves. And that is the kind of stuff that I like talking about, online in my little snippets about leadership and life, and about how to survive in any organization you are, military or civilian or whatnot. I want to make leadership behaviors as exciting and relevant as people talk about leadership ideas.
Yeah, that's great, because as you see now, right, the big thing is Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, whatever, small digestible bites that seem to grab the attention more than the long form content, reading an entire book. But like you said, how do you put that into practice? What did you have someone in your career or your own personal life that kind of showed you to maybe that's a better way to help get your point across, is through digestible bites versus, like you said, I mean, typically we see, hey, I'm going to talk to you about leadership, and I'm going to get an hour discussion about what, this is how the Army leads, or this is how you would lead in a civilian world. Did you have a mentor that kind of told you to take advantage of social media and those short bite-sized clips, or what was it, sir?
Well, if I had a mentor about that specific topic, it was probably Gary Vaynerchuk. So what I started doing, and what's funny is one of the things I'm trying to do is help teach people the stuff that I had to learn the hard way. And when I say the hard way, what do I mean? Well, I mean a lot of mistakes, frankly. I made a lot of mistakes. And I had to learn with, somebody taking a chunk out of my butt or dropping the ball on something I was supposed to do better, or making some like I've made every time I talk about a leadership thing, I've made that mistake before myself. I absolutely have. Right. And so I wish that I wish there was somebody who was talking to me about that kind of approach, to stop talking about ideas in leadership and start talking about behaviors, because that is a perspective change that is really impactful for a lot of people. And I guess I just had to look around, and I started listening to some of the things Gary Vaynerchuk and other people in the social media and entrepreneurship kind of space were talking about. And the idea is that I need to go where people are. Like it is kind of in the middle of the year in 2024 as we're having this talk. And the kinds of social media content and the kinds of applications and sites that are popular now will not be popular in a year or 2 years or 3 years. So I need to go where people are, and I need to find a way to reach them in a way that feels sincere and genuine to me. And I think I could do that with long form content. And I think there's a lot to be said for long form content. And when you build up a sort of an audience for that kind of content, some of the most famous podcasters in the world do 1 hour plus shows, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of times, the things that are more digestible for people are those short things. And I, as I see it, when I talk about behaviors or perspectives I want people to take, I don't need a lot of time to do that. It's usually 45 seconds to 2 minutes or so, and then we're off to the races with the next thing. I found the easiest thing for me was to do one of the things that Gary Vaynerchuk recommended, is instead of thinking about producing complicated content, I just allowed something to happen in life and thought, oh man, I know what's going on here. And I just pick up the phone up and record. So sometimes it's in my office, and sometimes it's in the car, and sometimes it's at home, and it all just depends. But when it's fresh like that and I'm really thinking about it, that's when I can, when I feel like it's the most genuine.
That's awesome. And you can tell, because there's times I find you in your brown t-shirt, army t-shirt, ready to record, or in your PT uniform doing the sled drag carry, sprint drag carry.
Mm-hmm. Dragging the sled.
Yeah, for sure. But like you said, that's the most genuine, right? You're not trying to make up content. The content's essentially making itself.
Yes, I'm just documenting the things that I'm seeing and doing, and the ways in which I'm approaching things on a day-to-day basis. I'm trying to document that, and I try to do it as often as I can. I've just gone through this move process. I've just moved to a new state, a new location, because I do that every 2 years or so in the Army. This is like our 12th move. It's just brutal, but we're finally coming to the end of that. But so I try to do as often as I can too.
That's great. And what would you say the feedback is? Do you have a mix of military and civilian who are watching and like reaching back out to you, or is it primarily Army physical therapists, or is it a wide group, AMED officers, Army officers, enlisted, what have you?
Yeah, well, I would say that depends on the platform, and here's what I mean about that. So most platforms that I'm on, I'm getting engagement from people who are already following me. So these are people who are already in the military or already in medicine in some way, physical therapy, PMR, orthopedics, massage therapy, personal training, something like that, right? And all of the feedback I get from real people, and when I say real people, I mean people with a face and a name behind what they're saying, either in person or online, universally positive. And probably, a couple times a month, I'll get even a DM on some applications. I'm on a whole bunch of things, YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, all of that stuff, right? And I'll get somebody like, hey, I really appreciate what you said about this, and here's how it helped me. And that's super motivating for me, right? I think that when I'm at in an application or program whose algorithm is set up to do the maximum sort of spread, or I don't want to use virality, but like there are places where you can go right now where the algorithm is optimized to spread your message better to people who are not already following you. And I'm not an expert in how that happens, but I do follow people who are experts. And for right now, Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, and TikTok are a couple of places where I have much bigger reach than I normally do, but it's because of the algorithm, the way that the way that site functions. And again, in 1 to 2 years, it'll be totally different. I may be on some totally different sites, and I'm agnostic to where I go. And I think the only time I get negative feedback is that it's from it's the old joke about reading your comment section, right? And so who are we talking about? What kind of stuff are we talking? I'm talking about anonymous accounts. I'm talking about private accounts who have watched one or less videos of mine and they say something ugly and move on. And I don't feel some kind of way about that. I don't. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody on TikTok, and they're like, "Oh, you're getting ratioed," which I think is an expression from Twitter or X, where when more people say negative things than positive things about you, that's a ratio. You've been ratioed, right? So, and I just kind of said back to him, I said, "Look, I mean, I have more likes and favorites and new followers by far than I have unique negative comments, and all the negative comments are from anonymous or private accounts, right? So who are these people? So they're either bots, so they're not even real people, right? They're people who don't have the competence to understand what I'm trying to get at, right? Or they're people who do know what they're doing and they're hiding behind a mask. So let me put it to you this way. In your office where you work, let's say somebody put a mask on and ran in and pointed at you and said, "Joe, you're a big jerk," and then ran away.
Right.
Like you wouldn't think to yourself, "Oh man, somebody said something mean." You would think, "Who is that crazy guy? And what is going on with his life that he would do that? I hope he's okay." And that's how I see those things too. I see that through that same lens. Some of the videos I've done, especially on TikTok, where I've gotten the most number of negative comments, I've always gotten way more likes, favorites, and new followers from those. And they've also been the ones that have the most views. So one of the things I do for people who say negative things, and again, they're always from anonymous or private accounts, I say, "Thank you for supporting my channel. I really appreciate you helping me spread my message," right? And so nothing makes those folks angrier than not fighting with them and just thanking them for their. Some of them will even share, "Look at this big jerk," and he's, people see me and I'm a guy of a certain age, and sometimes I have a uniform on, and I become an avatar for somebody they didn't like in their past. And I understand that has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them. And I just thank them for it. I really appreciate you sharing my content. Thank you. And I know that I want to take advantage of you commenting now, because I know in another day or so, you're going to be mad and cursing at someone else. And so while you're cursing at me, I want to try to get you to comment so that you can help me share my message. Thank you so much for your support. Boy, nothing cooks those folks like that. But anyway, but that's the thing. I think we have to develop this kind of immunity from that kind of negative feedback. There's this old saying, like, you wouldn't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't go to for advice. Don't take criticism from anyone you wouldn't go to for advice. And these sorts of anonymous folks, I'm not angry about them. I'm kind of sad for them and what they spend their time doing. All the people who are in the business that I'm in or in related business, when they talk to me about that, they're very positive about it. Yeah. You'll never be criticized by someone doing more than you. You'll only be criticized by people doing less.
Yep. No, that's great. And that's advice, I give to my daughters as well. They're young athletes in high school, and you know how that goes with teenagers and whatnot. And it's like, hey, just be yourself, play hard, and don't worry about outside noise, especially nowadays. You do worry about that with social media and kids and stuff like that. But
it's a tough environment for kids right now. I mean, it's way harder. I mean, gosh, the stuff that I got into when I was a kid, man, I had the internet been around, and had I filmed some of the things that we did, like, it was just typical kid stuff. But my gosh, now it's the type of stuff that might get a fella canceled.
Yeah, for sure. No, and what I do love about what you're doing, and when I started this podcast, the reason I started it initially was I was in TAP, the transition assistance program, right?
Yeah.
And I was in a class with first year privates through probably not 30-year colonels, but you get the idea because
Yeah.
they would go through an
Yeah.
executive course. And then some people who are being med boarded in between unexpectedly, right?
Yeah.
And there was not, the TAP does a good job of a good coverall to help you.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of people in that room who were like, oh man, like I don't get housing allowance and my pay is going and all that's taxed. And oh man, my resume, I haven't been thinking about it. And so there were a lot of people who were nervous, scared, whether they let on or not. And so what I wanted to do was try to highlight positive people who are in the service, who are leaders. I wanted to highlight positive people who have separated and who are successful in kind of how they did their transition. And for me, I was scared to do it. I I joke I have the face for radio. I don't have the Joe Rogan voice.
It's not true. It's not true.
I don't got the Joe Rogan voice, and it's like, what am I doing putting myself out there like this? But I look at the things you did that I followed, and I would take those tidbits that you would put out there and the information you would put out, and was like, man, I would listen to him and I would get advice and I would try to apply it to my daily life because, especially a lot of the stuff you were talking about, civilian military relationships, leadership of peers with, all this stuff. And working at HRC, I have a lot of civilians that I work with. Like I said, I've been managing doctors' careers for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so what I really wanted to do, and kind of like I took a lot of motivation from you, was trying to put positivity out there. This world is too negative. Social media is too negative, especially during a political climate.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's gonna get worse when people lose their minds in presidential election years.
But having some positivity out there, and then people like yourself who don't just say we need to do better. You're leading that effort, and I think a lot of people could take. And this is one of the reasons I wanted you on this show, is because I wanted people to see the work you're doing, how it can impact lives, and actually the impact of doing, not just saying. What are your thoughts on that? As far as it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to do it.
Yeah, I think that's full circle to what we talked about before.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the ideas and the talk are okay if they get us to action, right? And I think that the more you do this stuff, you never know the people that you are influencing, and that by making a deliberate effort to be a positive force in as many people's lives as you possibly can pays dividends that it is hard for me to convey over a screen. Sometimes you're the only person giving someone else the support that they need, and you never know who that is. I talk to a lot of people, especially junior people, and I do the best that I can to be as positive and supportive and to coach, teach, and mentor them. And I am often surprised to hear weeks, months, even years later, you were the only one who supported me. And that is shocking. Well, first of all, it's shocking to me, but you never know who's watching and listening and who's out there for whom you were the only person in their corner. And that is a tremendous responsibility, I think, for all of us.
No, for sure, sir. Well, I kind of want to transition this a little bit, and you are a senior leader in the Army, right?
Yep.
Senior
colonel, which is a nice way to say not going to be a general.
I'm not on that board, so I don't know.
Oh yeah. Poor Silvernail. Yeah. Boo-hoo.
But obviously, extremely successful career, led at all levels. But the last couple years, you, as the consultant to the Army Surgeon General, can you talk about how you approached your leadership style as a strategic leader as opposed to a tactical leader?
Yeah, I think that the further away from the front line you move, where the action is, right? Now that's as true in the army as it is at the cinnamon roll store at the mall, right? The further away, the further back you go from where the action is actually happening, where things are getting done, the more strategic you have to think. And I think that there's a lot of definitions of strategy, and people will make it complicated, but let me make it easy for you. It's not today's business. It's where do we need to be in 1, 2, 5, and 10 years from now. It's a mindset to think of where are we headed now, and where do we need to be, and what changes do we need to make now to get to that location. And I think it is so easy. There's tremendous pressure in whatever organization you're in, just to get the blinders on and just to say, I just need to get this job done today, just to get today's business done. And I understand that completely. And that's very important. But on a weekly to monthly basis, we need to be doing something that shows us evolving into the direction of where we need to go. And that really is the job of a more senior leader, someone who's further back from where the action is, who shares a vision of where we are headed together as a group, shares that vision, and it's a vision that's accessible and feels important to people. And that's what will help them get behind what it is you're trying to do. Like right now in Army medicine, we, like the rest of the Army, we are in this state where we are looking at the past conflicts that we've had, like in Iraq and Afghanistan, for example, and we are realizing that the next conflicts we get in are not going to be like that. Just like those conflicts were not like the Gulf War, which was not like the Vietnam War, which was not, you get the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're always trying to evolve. We're trying to predict what might be coming. We're never going to get it exactly right, but we're trying to predict the direction we're heading, and we're trying to evolve and move our organization so we can be successful at that next set of challenges. And I think we're making great progress in the Army in general and in Army medicine in particular on that. And I think that message applies to everyone in every job. Think about how much the economy has changed, right? And people often talk about things like artificial intelligence and what that's going to do. I mean, we think about the Industrial Revolution and how many people, how human lives were changed by machinery, and the people who lost the most in the short term were people doing labor, primarily unskilled labor, right? As AI comes, there's a lot of people talking about the fact that there's a lot of people doing unskilled mental labor, and their jobs are going to be in trouble in the short term with AI. How many people do you know? Now, if you're listening to this, think about this. How many people do you know who go to work and sit in an office and click in their email all day? And you start to wonder, what exactly does that person do every day? I've had days that I feel like that myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of those tasks might be better done over AI. And where does that leave us, right? So thinking about where the organization you're in and what kind of strategy you've got to think about the challenges that are coming and how you need to change, building that vision for where the organization needs to go and how you can get there in a way that people feel is important to them. And by doing that, you can take some of the daily business pressure off and really focus on that vision of what needs to be accomplished and get enough people behind it to make some real change. And that's the kind of thing I'm excited to do at the Office of the Surgeon General now in my current role in the Army. But that applies to everybody. I mean, if you work at a company whose job it is to make cinnamon rolls at the little kiosk thingy in the mall, you have the exact same challenges, right? Exact same, right? Things are going to change. Things are going to be different. This is a period of a lot of social change. This is all good stuff, and it's all a normal part of the evolution of how we're getting there. But you've got to evolve your business model just as surely as we do.
Yeah. So as you're developing these strategies, and I imagine there are leaders or those who maybe you're the boss, you're the supervisor, you're the consultant for these officers who do not maybe they don't see that picture, they don't see that vision,
Yeah.
or maybe they just, in a quiet conversation, they disagree with that direction or vision. As a strategic leader, how do you help get them kind of see the vision or to see that message?
Yeah.
And hopefully they buy into that and they support it and push that down to their subordinates as well.
I think I've changed my approach to this over time. I think I focused for a long time, for a long part of my career, I focused on trying to convince people of things, usually with persuasion, but sometimes with arguments. And I've changed. I don't think that works. I don't think arguing works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we convince other people. I think people convince themselves. And that's true of everything. That's true of like what toothpaste to use and what shirt to wear and what route to take to work and whether we're going to support this strategic initiative at work, right? I focus on me, my behavior, right? On how can I most describe the positive vision of where we need to be in a way that will reach the most numbers of people while making an effort to reach people where they are, depending on what their job role is. And when I focus on that part, I find I get much better results than trying to convince individual people. And there always will be some folks who just aren't 100% on board. And I think that for those folks, I want to encourage them to come up with an alternate vision, to come up with, if you think we're going the wrong direction, that's interesting. Where do you think we should go and why? Because I think a lot of folks who get disillusioned at work, they're not disillusioned because they're not creative thinkers. They're not disillusioned because they don't care about the work. They're disillusioned because their boss wanted to go right and they thought we should go left. And instead of bringing them into the process and listening to what they have to say, they were told to be quiet and do what you're told. Or one of the things we say in the Army is shut up and color, right? Yeah. And so like, I don't tell people to do that. Yeah. I say, look, here's the deal. We think a lot of smart people are behind us. We really think we're going this direction. If you think this is wrong, then here's what I recommend you do if you're trying to change the direction that we go. I think you're going to have to come up with a response to this and that concern, and you're going to have to help us understand how we can get here going that different route. And there are always a percentage of people who will feel empowered by that to come up with the kind of viewpoint diversity that we need to have a healthy organization.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest differences, right, between someone who has a valid concern, kind of like you bring it, if we want to bring it back to your social media comments, right? Yeah. Someone who's providing constructive feedback,
yeah,
versus someone who just is unhappy that things are changing and they don't want them to change, or they just see it a different way, right? You give them some skin in the game. Mm-hmm. Okay, how would we do it better? And from my experience, for those who have the constructive feedback, the leadership is genuinely like receptive to it.
Yes.
Because I think a good leader understands you may have blind spots in your thinking.
We all do.
Right. And having someone, whether at the end of the day the decision is made to continue on with the path that was decided or not, having someone who could kind of point out like, hey, wait a minute, have we thought about this? Have we thought about this area? Someone's bringing this up to our attention. They've laid out these reasons. Can we explore this? Can we go a little farther research before we definitely are head on?
Yeah.
But I think that's invaluable to have that. And like you said, just yelling or screaming at them or beating them into submission
doesn't work.
not only doesn't work, but discourages future feedback.
Yeah, it is. And I do think there were always a percentage of folks who don't like things, who honestly don't have a better idea. They don't have an alternate vision. And that is okay. And that I need people to do the daily business too. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got to sharpen the knives. Somebody's gotta for the cinnamon rolls. Somebody's got to mix up the cinnamon drizzle. Somebody's got to turn the lights on. If you want to be one of those
Okay.
people, I think that's great, and we need those people too.
Yeah.
But if you want a seat at the table where we talk about where we're going, that seat has to be earned. And I say that I say that with as much kindness as I can muster. And you earn that by demonstrating expertise in your role in the organization and demonstrating that you can solve problems at your level. Then you get a chance to solve problems at another level. And then you have to earn that seat each time, right? Some of the hardest things to do in any organization is to get internally promoted. Usually, when they're looking to hire somebody new, they take somebody from outside who's got fresh ideas and all that stuff. It's often hard to get promoted internally, but you really have got to have the right kind of reputation as somebody who has a positive approach to things and knows how to solve problems. And I think that's a big part of leadership that I don't think we talk enough about. The behaviors that are centered around problem solving rather than the ideas about what the latest leadership bestseller was on the New York Times list, right? I found a lot of Army officers who are excited to tell me about the latest leadership book they read, but they don't seem to know, or when asked, don't understand what the Army expects from them as leaders. So they'll buy a book to read it, but they won't read the free regulation that tells us all what we're supposed to be doing. And I'll tell you, like, in the Army, you know it as well as everybody, like, our business is leadership. There is tremendously valuable stuff in there, and it does a pretty good job of translating that to behaviors, which I'm passionate about too.
For sure. Which, now you talked about internal, external promotions, right? Getting hiring in and out. Can you talk about how at the strategic level that you're at, if those who don't know that the consultant to the Army Surgeon General, it's not a full-time job, right? That's
an additional hat.
It's an additional hat. So as you're married, you got your full-time day job, and then you have this other job where you are answering to the 3-star general, head of Army medicine. How do you balance that? How do you balance all those responsibilities and maintain sanity, maintain relationships? How do you do it?
One of the things that I did for people in my community as the consultant that I think I got the best feedback is that I did what we call in the Army an LPD, which is a leadership professional development presentation, a mentoring presentation about work-life balance. There is not a professional coaching, counseling, mentorship discussion I ever had with an officer, NCO, or soldier that was not about their personal life and their personal decisions also. It's not about me telling them how to live their life. It's not about me judging them for what they've done. It's about me helping them put in context their personal and professional life to ensure they're moving in the direction that they want to provide that kind of positive vision of where we're headed. And one of the things I think it's important for everyone to understand is that you can't have it all. You can't. I cannot be 100% doctor, 100% colonel, 100% husband, 100% consultant to Surgeon General, 100% for my boss, and 100% executive at my job, and be 100% fit and pursue 100% of my hobbies. It doesn't work. There aren't enough minutes in the day. I have to make deliberate decisions about what I'm going to do, and also I have to make deliberate decisions about what I am not going to do. And so my decisions about allocating that time were different when I was junior, as opposed to now that when I'm more senior, which is just a nice way to say old. And making those decisions deliberately, I recommend it, because what you don't want to do is wake up and realize you're not where you want to be, and you have made decisions that are not moving you in the direction that you really want to be, right? And if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, like, I am very happy with the decisions that I've made and with the efforts that I've made to balance those two things and provide the best option. I spent more time as a senior leader. I was often late for the Surgeon General. I was often late for the Corps Chief. I was even late for my peers, but I was never late for my juniors, ever. I talked to them on the weekends, in the evenings, in their car, in my car. I was 100% focused on trying to build and develop the bench and to mentor, coach, and teach more junior people to make sure that the absolute top talent could stay in the organization and stay here. And I really, at the strategic level, I spent the majority of my time building leaders below me in the organization, even at the cost of being late for my boss sometimes. No, she understands.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everyone appreciates it, but I think sometimes, I'm a lieutenant colonel, I'm not a colonel, right? So, but I do have those experiences from my soldiers when I was in command who still reach out to, I was at National Training Center. So a lot of people I met there, I was an instructor, all the people, HRC, right? Some of the best times of your day are talking to those people. It's, yes, there's a lot going on. I'm working a lot, but I'm taking the time. I want to. This is an enjoyable part of my day. Like, you're not burdening me. And General Dingle, when I interviewed him about a week ago or so, I asked that question: do you feel that people reach out to you or are hesitant to reach out to you because you, at this point, he's retired? Are they hesitant to reach out to you for your leadership, your knowledge, your experience? Like, and he gave a story about how when he was a captain and the commander at Launchstool told him to reach out to him if he ever needed anything. And it went some time. He finally reached out for him to come over and be a guest speaker. And he's like, "Hey, I told you to reach out to me. What are you doing? This is the first time in like months you've reached out."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, you're the commander of Launchstool. Like, I can't just He's like, "You let me manage my time."
Yes.
And so he said that's something that he has held firm with him is, you know what? Yes, reach out to me, shoot me a message. I'll get back to you. You worry about me managing my time. And like you said, like, you're not going to miss out on those opportunities. It might take you a minute to get back to them, or sure, let's get on the schedule, but I'm not going to be late getting back to you. Yeah. And I think that's why, even throughout these years, you're looked at so positively, because I can't say that that's everybody, but I do know, and talking to the folks who specialist branch who sit right next to me at HRC, that you are that leader. You are the one who's there for people, not just in words, but in action. And so I know we're all appreciative of that.
Thank you. People will call me up and say, "Oh, sir, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're busy." What do you think I would do? What do you think I would like to do more? Click on some more emails or talk to you and help you solve a problem? Trust and believe it's the second one, right? I did not get this job for the Excel spreadsheets and the Teams meetings and like the agenda slide. Like, that's not why I'm here. I'm trying to be the senior leader that I wish I had as a junior. And I would tell you that I don't think, like, the rank thing, I don't think that matters. I was several years ago, I was at an Army post. I was in clinic doing my doctorate thing, and I was just taking care of this junior soldier trainee, and she had just completed basic training, and she was at school to be a combat medic, arguably the most important job in the Army. At least Joe and I think that. And she was talking about how what things were like for her at home. I was trying to get a sense of the kinds of things that she did prior to joining the Army to prepare her body physically, because she was having some trouble getting through some of the rigors of the training. And she was talking about the person who showed up for her graduation at basic training. And it wasn't her family. She didn't have a big family. It was her manager at the discount clothing store she worked at. You know the kind of discount clothing store we're talking about. The stuff where you can get a T-shirt for $5, right? That's where that young lady was working. And the 25-year-old shift manager had that relationship with her people. So you don't need to have some kind of rank or authority to care about people and to be able to support and help them. And that is what people will remember. That is what they'll remember.
That's awesome.
100%.
Yeah, I feel if you have to tell people you're in charge, you're not.
I don't ever do that. I don't ever say, "Hey, excuse me, I'm a colonel." I mean, sometimes I'll joke. I'll tap the eagle, like, "Hello, is this thing on? Excuse me, hello." But that's just a joke. Like you don't ever really have to pull your rank. If you pull your rank, you're not living it.
Yeah, and we may have seen that in a previous job
Yes,
together.
we did. We did.
So,
I know. We know exactly the people we're talking about. We won't say their names here.
No. Oh no, there might be a case study during ILE that talks about it. But anyhow,
that's exciting. I gotta look into that. I gotta look into that a little bit.
Maybe off camera, I'll tell you about it.
Hey, everybody felt the same way about those folks. Everybody felt the same way.
You know? Yes. Well, sir, I've taken up, and after this talking about managing your time, I've taken up a lot of your time. 40 minutes of just great information from you. But what would you say as, we're at an interesting point in our history, military right now with recruiting, retention. It's hard, the economy.
Yeah, it is. It's tough out there.
If now you're a physical therapist, right? I mean, it's unbelievably awesome career, especially if you can get to that and come into the military. If you had someone who is maybe on the fence about joining the service and would be interested to get your perspective on it, what would you tell that young person or someone older who's joining later in life? What perspective would you give them on their thoughts on joining the military as a whole?
Well, if I look back and I try to think about the things that have had the single biggest positive influence on my personal development as I move through planet Earth, like joining the Army is like up there in it's up there in the top 3 at least. Like it was profoundly life altering for me at the time that I did it, and I really love being in a values based organization. We're not here to chase profits. We're here to do the right thing for the security of the nation, and we're here to take care of each other when we do it. And just an opportunity to be around some of the most dedicated people in our society who want the best for our people and our nation, and to be around them daily and to have that kind of positive influence on you is critical. People talk about, like, you're sort of the mean of the 5 people you spend the most time around. Wouldn't it be nice to spend the most time around 5 people who are, at the top 3-5% of physical competence, of intellectual ability, and of their values and character? And being a part of an organization that is explicit about values and character, in my view, has made all the difference to why I'm staying in the Army. Of course I could do more money on the outside. That ain't why I'm here, right? And so if you look at the Army's leadership documents, one of the things you'll see is that the Army believes and knows through its 200 years of experience that you cannot be an effective leader if you are not a person of good character. And the Army does not distinguish between these two things. They are the same thing. And you would be hard pressed to find any other organization outside the military that feels that same way, that puts such emphasis on developing people's character alongside their competence. And that will forever alter your trajectory on our planet.
Awesome. Well, sir, not only was it an absolute honor having you on here, knowing you and the work you've done and the lives you have influenced in the military, civilian, make it easy for me to have the trust and confidence that I can encourage my daughters when they tell me they're interested in going to West Point or joining the service afterwards, and knowing that there's leaders like you and leaders that you have influenced throughout your career that will be looking after my daughters and helping them and mentoring them in the service. Um, as for me as a father, I don't think I could ask for any more to make my life complete than to see them succeed, and the leadership that you have provided and the leadership of those who you have coached, teach, and mentored um, help me feel confident that when they join the service, that they'll be in great hands. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done for me, the relationships you've built over the years with me, and developed so many others. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your service and all that you've done for the Army and for the country.
No, and for yours, Joe. Thank you. It was an honor to serve with you and a privilege to be able to talk to you today and be able to reach more people. Congratulations to you and your family and all your amazing success. You deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right.